Hi, everybody. This is Dan Stolbarger, and welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East update. And it is the week of September 19th, but as you know, we look back a week at the things that's transpired in the Middle East. And just a reminder, there is a PDF PowerPoint that accompanies this YouTube. It's got all the photos, etc. It's great to grab that. So make sure you do. It should be a link on the YouTube page, or you can go to our website at holygroundexplorations.com. So what's taken place in the Middle East this week? Well, if you can believe this, I've got a bridge to sail. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has said that the $6 billion that's been transferred now officially into Iranian accounts will only be available to be used by Iran for humanitarian trade and not terrorism. You believe that? Just to be clear, the president of Iran just came out and said, what we do with this money is none of the U.S.'s business. We will use it in any way we see fit. Where do you think that's going to go? Humanitarian aid, hospitals, schools, rockets, terrorism, Hezbollah, Hamas, PIJ, you name it. $6 billion the Biden administration has just given over for terror. Well, Mossad has come out to make a statement. They want to make it clear with all that's sort of circulating with normalization with the Saudis and the U.S. administration pressuring Israel in terms of dealing with the two-state solution. The message Mossad wants to give out is, listening, neutralizing Iran comes before any kind of normalization with the Saudis. This was the recent speech given by the chief of Mossad, wanting to clarify not so much to Iran, but to the Biden administration precisely where Jerusalem's priorities lie. And then for the second time in as many days, hundreds of Palestinians have gathered at the fence between Gaza and Israel to riot at the border, separating, basically a couple days ago, they put off some kind of bomb. Unfortunately, it killed 5 of them and never made it to the other side. But they're calling for a Palestinian it's the third one, intifada. So again, things are not all quiet on that front by any means. And then in Ashdod, one of the seaports close to Gaza, on the Med, a southern area, custom officials discovered 16 tons of rocket powder in 2 massive containers that supposedly were supposed to have contained building materials for Gaza. It was heading from Turkey to Gaza, but no building materials, rocket powder. Peace. Right around the corner, right? Excuse me. That's our report from News Bites. Now let's talk a little bit about the major articles this week. By the way, let me insert this here. For the next few weeks, there will always be a Middle East update, but for the next few weeks, it will only be available as a PDF PowerPoint. My wife and I are leading a tour. We're calling it Journeys with Paul, and we'll be heading out on Monday, and we'll be gone until mid to late October. And then once we're back, we'll pick up the YouTube versions of the Middle East update as well. So just get that out there so that if there's any issues and you're wondering, where's the video, not for a couple more weeks, okay? All right. The truth about terrorism. Well, the Palestinian Authority tells the international community that it is fighting and killing Israelis on nationalistic grounds. That's what they're telling the international community. But what they tell their own people is it's two different things. They tell their own people that killing Israelis and Jews is for Allah. If that's true, if it's a religious thing, it's critical that the UN recognize that this is terror. This is Palestinian terror that's based on religion. And they need to condemn it along with all the other religion-based terrors that they condemn worldwide. Moreover, and here's the problem, the children, the Palestinian children, what they are taught is that these acts of terrorism are happening because it is for Allah. All Muslims must join the religious war against the Israelis. As Golda Meir has spoken, very familiar quote of Golda's, is that we'll never have peace until the Arab mothers and fathers love their children more than they hate Israel. And what has been happening is this is just a legacy of hate, and no peace treaties, no giving of land is going to solve this issue until we deal with this legacy of hate and what's taught to children. Some good news. The Israeli Interior Minister is apologizing to Christian Zionist groups, and they'll resume issuing clergy visas for their staffs. This was a big breakthrough that transpired. Apologies given to the ICEJ. And again, throughout this interview with Caleb Myers and the head of the Interior Ministry, over and over again, the MOI officials say that Israel deeply appreciates evangelical support. Myers says the meeting couldn't have gone better. And again, the Director General made it several times, reiterated how important it was and how appreciative Israel is for the Christian Zionist organizations. And so that's good news. If you've got the slide, you'll see that I've included the Route 60, the biblical highway. My wife and I saw that last night, loved it. But my concern is that we were in a theater that there was a couple hundred people there. And as I got up at the end to walk out, I kind of was looking over my shoulder because we were more or less in the front of the theater. And I realized that 95% of the people in that audience for this showing were probably 65 and older. And this is what my concern is for the younger generation, is that the support of Christian Zionism, of Israel today, is waning in terms of the generation that's coming up behind us. And all I can say is that this is a great concern for me, and it's important for our ministry that we get more and more younger people to experience Israel and not be caught up with the media's take and spin on what's transpiring in the Middle East today. And there's another article that we'll get to about this. In fact, it's coming up. There was a recent poll out about U.S. and Israel relations. And although the poll shows that Americans view Israel as more of a friend than a foe, it is found that it's divided on whether Israel is a country with which the U.S. shares common interests and values. It's dropping. About 4 in 10 Americans describe Israel as a partner that the U.S. should cooperate with, but only 3 in 10 say that Israel's an ally that shares U.S. interests. Republicans more than Democrats, 44% to 25%, call Israel an ally with shared American values, but only 2 in 10 Americans describe Israel as either a U.S. rival or an adversary. But once again, we're finding the younger generation is confused and more either backing away or actually siding with the Palestinian, because again, it's the underdogs, right? Now, keep in mind in all of this that the U.S. provides Israel with more than $3 billion a year in military and other assistance. And that close relationship has endured over the decades, but how much longer? That's always the question, right? My friend Amir Safati will actually say, an Israeli Messianic believer, you probably heard of Amir, he'll always say the day is coming that Israel will have to stand alone. And I've always felt like, well, I hope that's not on my watch. And yet more and more, I've got greater concerns. The Iranian nuclear program. No big surprise here. They have just denied 1/3 of the International Atomic Energy Agency to come to inspect their nuclear sites. Again, Netanyahu comes out and says, we're not surprised by their actions. Keep in mind, they've always said that their nuclear program is for the purposes of what? Civilian, peaceful purposes. But nobody's believing that. And more we're hearing that they're closer and closer to their goal of creating a nuclear weapon for not for the purposes of civilian well-beings or whatever, but to destroy Israel. There's no doubt about that. And so now with us the U.S. just giving $6 billion, letting that go, we wonder if this should be a big surprise that the Iranians are now saying, no, we don't want inspectors in Iran checking out our nuclear program. Once again, back to what the Mossad just said, our number one goal is to neutralize the threat of Iran. That's the day in which we're living. And then Bibi Netanyahu is currently here in the U.S. He's meeting with Biden, I think, tomorrow. So more about that. But there's no doubt there's a cold shoulder. Netanyahu is holding out hope that he would be invited to the White House rather than having a sidebar at the UN. That's kind of a JV versus varsity scenario there. And make no mistake about it, this is the cold shoulder. And then, but he's meeting with Elon Musk. Musk is a fascinating figure. X now, it's no longer Twitter, probably the richest man in the world. And Bibi is discussing AI technology with him. Also, anti-Semitism versus free speech through X. But we know the impact. We know how strong social media is today. So this is a noteworthy conversation that's taking place. Because as we all know, anti-Semitism is on the rise today. And so many people do not do any kind of research whatsoever. They just listen to talking heads and whoever comes up with the most creative ad campaign. Well, that's it for this week. We are still in the midst of the Days of Awe, the 10 Days of Awe. Coming up, I think it's Monday, will be arriving at the end of the 10 days of awe, which is Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. So this is just a call to prayer. I know for our church that we attend here in Coeur d'Alene, there is a massive call to prayer, believing that the times in which we're living are our most effective weapon for change, and that dunamis power, dynamic power, is going to come from believers being on their knees seeking God. And so just a reminder, we're still in the days of awe, a great time to deepen your prayer life with Jesus. So God bless you. That's our report for this week. Again, you'll find that last slide, an upcoming Israel trip that we have, February 21st through March 1st. Can't wait. It's starting to fill up. We always want to just limit this to 25, no more than 30 people. So we find that optimum as far as the experience that Holy Ground wants to give our people. So again, it's starting to fill up. If you're interested, get your deposits in and reserve your seat now. So with that, God bless you and shalom.